Alright guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, going to go over a story titled, My Fiancé, a 29-year-old male, became upset when he heard that I'd done certain acts with exes that I don't want to try with him. And guys, this story is all about a gal. She is 25 years old, and she's engaged to this guy who's 29, just like I said in the title. And long story short, they were attending some party with a bunch of friends, and there was a lot of drinking involved, and they were playing some kind of game, I guess dealt with truth or something like that. And pretty much one way or another, it got out that back in college, she used to partake in a certain dirty deed, dirty being a certain clue word there, with many dudes. Definitely a carousel rider, but interestingly enough, has never partaken that type of event with her soon-to-be husband. And as you can probably imagine, when the party was over, he was a bit upset about this because, as it turns out, she's not the girl that he thought she was. And it sounds like this guy was pretty much getting the bare minimum. Meanwhile, back in college, hey, the sky was the limit to all these guys, these random guys. Does it sound like kind of a familiar type of tale, guys? I'm doing this, guys, for a lot of reasons. One, this story is entertaining, and you guys will most certainly get a kick out of this as I get into it more. But in terms of the elements to learn stuff, guys, for so many guys out there that are relationship guys, they can go through their entire year, teenage years, high school, and then college, and they may not get a whole lot of attention from the gals. You know, maybe occasionally they get some girlfriends, and they're never usually the girls they really want. And then a lot of times what happens is those guys get a little older, maybe their late 20s, definitely their 30s, and all of a sudden the gals are starting to pay much more attention to them. Okay? Nothing has changed with these guys. They still pretty much look the same, they still pretty much act the same, dress the same, all that, except the fact they're a little older, and now they usually have a job, have some resources, things are starting to happen for them. And now they're getting attention from the gals, and they're thinking, yes, I finally got my shot. Finally, after all this time, I'm going to have the last laugh because now these girls that wouldn't give me the time of day in high school and college, now they want me. Well, there's a sucker born every minute and two to take him because, no, you didn't get these girls. These girls, the types that wouldn't give you the time of day back in high school and college, they're ready to settle. And they can pick out a nice guy a mile away. The same way as they can pick out a bad boy or Chad or Tyrone, if you will. You see, so these guys get involved with these girls, they think they got it made, and they marry them, and then they're shocked to find out that they, in situations like this, are in no way, shape, or form get, let's just say, the certain fun and royal treatment that the guys back in the day who she could care less about got. See what I'm talking about here? I tell you guys all the time that if you think for a second that all of a sudden you're gonna hit the jackpot, or you've hit the jackpot, and you're gonna have the last laugh, I'm sorry, but you are terribly mistaken. Because these gals reach a point that they've been in college and they've been wild. They get to their mid-20s, and that's when they start looking. Some of them do. Okay, they've done college, a master's degree, they're in the job, getting themselves established. Now they're looking for a husband. And they know that Chad and Tyrone, the bad boys, the guys they would hook up with in college, those guys are not the type that are going to settle down. In the suburbs, white picket fence, the crap you see in the Hallmark movies, they need a nice guy for that. So they go for a guy who they know will treat them like the queen, put them on the pedestal, and they have to do the bare minimum to keep them. Therefore, those guys get the bare minimum in the bedroom. Okay? Meanwhile, the girls back in the old days in college and high school, the ones they really wanted, would do anything. The sky was the limit because they were seeking the guys' validation. Meanwhile, with this guy, the guys they settle with, they're not a prize. Okay? They're the guy they settle with. And they do the bare minimum. And this is what we have here. And no guy ever wants to find out or realize or accept that his gal settled for him. It makes him feel like shit. And who could blame him? Really? Well, this is what we got here. And you're going to see it doesn't end too well for the girl. So I want to point those things out, guys. It's very important. I know I've covered this in other videos before, but that's a very important thing. So, by the way, if you're that guy, all of a sudden girls are starting to pay attention to you and nothing has changed, you're not any different than you were when you were younger, then the odds are they're seeing you as a nice guy, marriage material type to use for resources, and you're going to get the bare minimum too, and she may even end up cheating on you one day. So be aware of this before you make the mistake that so many before you've made, and settle and take one of these gals in, because it may not end well for you. So she starts off here. She says, I've been together with John for 3 years in total, and we've had a great run so far. Even from early on, I thought he could be the one. So happily said yes when he asked me to marry him a few months ago, although wedding planning has been put on the back burner for now by the virus. I thought things were great, but suddenly I feel like we are at a serious impasse that has made things very tense between us. With restrictions in our state winding down, we finally hosted a small get-together, which mostly included friends I had from college. I think with all the recent stress, we all went a bit out and the booze was flowing freely. At one point, we had a party game of sorts where the topic became kind of sexual. I don't want to get too explicit, but basically it came up whether I had ever had backdoor sex. I didn't feel comfortable answering, but a friend of mine who was super wasted blurted out that I did it with X and Y. I was super mad that she violated my privacy like that, but didn't want to ruin the party, and we kind of laughed it off and moved on. Well, and I'll point out that her fiancé, the guy, was in the room when this was going on. So she didn't want to answer that question because, as it turns out, she has a history. Now notice that her friend obviously knows about this, so much that her friend had to blurt it out. So it isn't just a case of maybe one, maybe two dudes. Sounds like a lot more like she had a reputation. I thought that was it, but later that night, I could tell that John seemed very upset, and I asked him what was wrong. If she thought that was it, and that just one in one ear out the other for that guy, she is out of her damn mind. We had never really discussed our history, and frankly, I thought we both preferred it that way. But now John asked me very probing questions. Interesting she used the word probing here. For example, how many guys have I had backdoor you-know-what with? I was reluctant, but answered honestly that it was about 8. 8? About 8? She's not quite sure. You know, the old joke about the gals, when a girl is asked how many dudes she's been with, whatever number she gives, it's bullshit. Multiply it by 3. And when a guy gives his number, divide by 3, because guys are full of shit too. So if she's saying 8 and she's saying about 8, then it could be about 24. So this is someone that obviously like to get freaky. And yet for some reason, this dude that she's marrying, he hasn't gotten any of this, or amongst other things. So you can see why that he didn't let that go. And you can see, guys, what I was talking about at the beginning for 4 minutes there. This continues. I was reluctant, but answer was about 8. He also asked me about some other acts I'd done that I don't want to get into. So there's other acts that she would partake in that she doesn't even want to mention here. So the acts that were obviously worse than this. And I'm willing to bet you that she didn't partake in that with this dude that she's getting involved with. What I tell you guys, this is the guy she settles with. Then we came to the real issue. He said he felt upset that I had the backdoor stuff with all those guys, but refused to try with him. Refused. So he's thinking, wait a second here. I'm the guy that asked you to marry me, and you said yes. I'm the guy that's going to dedicate myself to you and be there for you and make you my queen and blah, blah, blah. And you mean to tell me that back in college, you were wild and crazy with all these dudes who meant nothing, and yet with me, the dude who should probably get the royalty treatment, that would seem kind of right. I certainly give you the royalty treatment. I don't get anything. All those things I wanted, which you obviously enjoyed back in the day. So what gives? It's a reasonable question. It's a good reason to be a bit frustrated in this situation, to put it mildly. She says, it's true that he asked before, and I said, it's not something I want to do, which is true. I'm not sure how to explain it, but the act feels kind of degrading to me. So it didn't feel degrading with the 8 or so dudes back in college. I'll tell you what's going on because she doesn't. I'm not sure how to explain it. I can explain it quite well. Back in college, it was carousel time. She was being wild. Yes, these dudes were probably disposable, so she could be carefree and not have to worry about maybe them ever seeing him again or judging her, even though guess what? Her friends all knew about it. But also the fact that probably those were the guys that she saw as a prize. So in order to get their validation, she had to open up to them, no pun intended. So they got all that extra stuff. But this guy, she knows he's not going anywhere. She knows she's got him. She knows that he sees her as a prize. So why should she have to do the extra bonus stuff? That's what I'm talking about. She says, I kind of enjoyed it during the wilder phase of my life because there was this appeal of trying something more taboo, but only with casual partners. Translation, the bad boys are Chad and Tyrone. But I don't want a man I love and respect so much who respects me to do that to me. The idea just sounds completely off-putting to me. See? This guy who she's so in love with, who's the one who she's going to marry, but, I don't want to do that with him, the man I respect so much. If there's two places on which a woman can truly reward their guy for all him being a good husband to her and loyal and all these good positive things, it's in two places. The kitchen, in terms of the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. We can all agree there. She can make good food. That's a big bonus. Or two, the bedroom. Now, let me make something abundantly clear. I cannot be any more clear about this, just to clear it up now in the first 10 minutes of the video. Nobody should partake in any activity, hint, hint, that they truly don't want to do in terms of which causes them physical pain or a whole number of issues. Okay, nobody should be forced to do that. I can't make that any more clear. But it's another thing if back in the day, somebody used to do that quite regularly, openly admitted it, and openly admitted they enjoyed it. And we all know the real core reason behind all it, because those are the guys she wanted. Those are the guys she wanted the attention and validation from, mainly validation. But with the current guy, he's getting the bare minimum. That's why he's upset. That's why lots of guys are frustrated about being put in that situation, which also tells him, I don't see you as worthy, as great as those other guys. And in his mind, he knows those types of guys. We all know those types of guys. They're the lowlives. They're the guys you want to punch in the face when you see them. We all know them. So that's why he's upset. And no one wants to feel like you're the person that person just settled for. Because we all want to think that we got somebody that actually truly thinks that we're great, or at least matches the way we feel about them. And so this is just a total slap in the face to him, thinking, what the hell? She says, I tried to explain how I felt to John, but he did not see it that way. Yeah, because he finally saw through the bullshit. He knows you settled for him. He said some hurtful things during the conversation. He knew I briefly had a thing with a baseball player in college, and he said how I was happy getting on my hands and knees to get backdoored with a left fielder, but suddenly became a prude for me. He realized he went too far and apologized immediately, but the tension between us remained palpable. We haven't been intimate since this fight, if you can call it that, and I'm not sure how to get past this. I got news for you. Even if you start partaking in those events, those things with him, he's still going to know that if this hadn't gotten out, he'd be getting the bare minimum. And back in the day, all those guys you were more than happy to partake in those activities with. So he knows you settled. He knows you weren't his first choice because, believe me, most guys that the gals marry are not their first choice. They get older and realize, oh shit, biological clock is ticking. I better find a dude real quick. Oh, there's a nice guy there. There's a nice guy there. Look at that dorky dad shirt on him. Look at those shoes. I'll go after him. He's a sure thing. Okay, I'll give him the bare minimum. He'll get the starfish sex. Maybe on his birthday he might get something a little more, but that's about it. No guy wants to be that guy. Has anyone dealt with anything similar? Well, I'm sure a lot of gals have had in the situation giving the bare minimum to the guy they settle with. How can I try to explain to John that it's not that I don't love him less and find him attractive? It's just that I'm a different person now, and the kinds of things seem fun in my crazier college days are not something I want to repeat in a committed relationship. Yes, back in the day, that was the wild period. Okay, fine. But you can't tell me You can't tell me, okay, she's 25 years old. You can't tell me she gets married and gets bored and gets married to this dude and is bored in about 5 years, and kind of like how things go nowadays, that the next thing you know, she would break up with him and back doing the same thing back in college because she's been cooped up in a boring relationship for years, and now is doing the same exact thing that she claims she doesn't want to do, but with guys that she sees as a prize. So, not buying this at all. So, now we're going to go on to part 2 of this to see how this thing all plays out. And you're going to see, well, not exactly in her favor. She starts out saying, "Unfortunately, I don't have a happy update, as the title says, but I'm grateful for all the advice I got. I took some time to reflect and see from John's perspective. I understood how the revelation of my history may have made him question things and make him feel like I didn't value him as much as other partners, which was 100% not true and not how I wanted him to feel. It may not be how you want him to feel, and I'm sure you are attracted to many things that he has, but you're not attracted to him the same way as the other guys back in the day. Okay, you don't need his validation. You needed their validation. And sure, we all can do things when we're younger and all that, but still, certain core traits that make us human don't change. And I want to point something out here. Imagine if they were at a party. Got something in my eye here. Imagine if they were at a party and a game like this came up about with his friends asking something about his past. And she were to find out that he, in college, was a super romantic guy with all his girlfriends. He would wine them and dine them and bring them flowers and take them on long romantic weekends, do all these romantic gestures with them. But with her, she barely gets anything romantic. You can't tell me that she wouldn't be deeply upset about this and realize, how come back in college these girls got all the romance and you wrote poems for them and told them how you felt, let's just say, and he even kept them, got them flowers, but with me you don't do any of this romance stuff and I feel like you don't care. She'd be pretty upset. Okay, that is the equivalent of this in terms of a woman's perspective. Okay, finding out that your girl is giving you the bare minimum in the sack and used to do anything for anybody else back in the day, that would pretty much be the equivalent of a gal finding out that her guy gives her no romance and she wants romance back in the day was the most romantic dude in college. See what I mean? She'd be upset, feel like he's settled, and there'd be a problem. So let me just make that comparison. Anyway, she says, I had another talk with John and said that if he wanted for us to incorporate that into our SEX life, I'd be willing to give it a try, and he agreed. But not with as much enthusiasm as I expected. See, it's not so much about the act that he wants, it's about the fact that you weren't interested with him, even though he wanted to do that. But you're more than happy with the 8 or so guys back in college. And by the way, I'm sure he knows darn well it's probably more than 8. The fact that her friend at the party, in the beginning of the story, just blurted out about that means she obviously had a reputation. I mean, it must have been like at the sorority house, come on down, get your shot with backdoor Becky here. I mean, it must have been pretty bad for her friend to be like, oh, how about this with boyfriend X and boyfriend Y? And he knows this. She says, to be honest, I was very uncomfortable with the idea for reasons I explained in my previous post, but thought I could get over it for the sake of salvaging our relationship. The experience was awful. I thought I was okay with it, but felt this strange sadness that John was doing this to me. In the past, John had been very romantic and caring, but this time he was almost robotic. When he must have seen, I was feeling distressed. After he finished, I went to the shower and just cried. I knew when I first read this first story, the second I heard that how he reacted. First of all, when I heard that they did this party and that it got out about her past, I knew it was done. And then I knew he'd react the way he did, and I knew this was going to end very well for her because it's not about the act. It's about the fact that he knows she's settled. Nobody wants that. No man or woman wants to think that their partner chose them because, like, oh, you're the guy to settle with or you're the girl to settle with. But I really wanted the people back in the day and gave them all. I guess at one point I realized that our relationship was over. We had one last candid discussion to kind of put it all out there. John apologized for how he acted and basically said that without wanting to, his perception of me had changed when I described my past. Yeah, he saw her as one way, but then he found out about her past and now he sees her as completely different. She's not the same girl that he proposed to or wants to be his wife, and he knows darn well he's settled. He said he had built up this image of me based on the person he knew, but that image kind of shattered after hearing about my promiscuity. I can't say that word right. You know what I mean, in college, and how I've been more adventurous with other guys. He said he was sorry, that he tried to get over it, but somehow he just couldn't. I get it. I completely get it, and I'm sure a lot of you guys out there get it. The silver lining is that, at least in the end, we parted ways on a civil note. John was kind and helpful and helped me move out to a friend's apartment who had a spare bedroom, and I am now renting. I'd be lying if I said that I'm really okay with this situation, since it's been nothing less than disorienting. This was by far the best relationship I ever had, and I'm still struggling to find out just how it just kind of crumbled so suddenly. I can tell you. Fortunately, my friends have been very supportive, and at my workplace is opening up again. So at least I can take my mind off the relationship and move on with my life. So he ended it with her. And that's that. Well, now she has the freedom to go back and get all the backdoor action she wants with guys that she doesn't give a shit about. But I saw this coming a mile away. And nobody wants to feel like the person they love settled for them because, like, hey, it's getting older. It's time to settle down and just pick anybody and then give them the bare minimum. Okay? Because she said here a moment ago about how he's very romantic with her and all these things like that. So she's getting the royalty treatment from him, but he's not getting the royalty treatment from her. Remember, 2 places, the kitchen and the bedroom. But as I said before, nobody should do anything that causes them physical pain or deeply make them uncomfortable. But this video is more about just know darn well what was behind the whole thing, that she settled for him. Meanwhile, the guys that she can give a shit about, that gave a shit about her, didn't give a shit about her, the sky was the limit what they got. So now I'm going to read a few comments here. One guy says, with responding to what was said, I cannot wrap my head around it all. You are willing to explore your sexuality with people you barely know or like, but with a person you actually love, you are unwilling to explore beyond vanilla. I'm in on the same boat. I just can't understand this logic. The things the original poster did with other men make her fiancé feel jealous. They make her fiancé worried because she doesn't share those sentiments with him, only with random people. So he asks, why didn't you do those things for me? What he's really asking is, why is it that even after we have talked, you still won't do those things for me and that excite me and make me feel like you honestly are attracted to me? What is wrong with me that you do this stuff with other people, but not for me, the man you plan to marry, an act which separates me from everyone else? Exactly. Another guy says here, when will people learn that college doesn't give them sudden immunity from their past? I feel like this is happening more and more often. You bet your ass. You can't just hide your past and then feel wrong when people find out the truth and not want to be with you anymore. Exactly. He found out about her past. He saw her completely different now. And she just wasn't the one for him anymore. End of story. And this is why it's so important that people are completely transparent about their lives before they get together with someone. But this is also important that people also take their time to really be with someone a long time and screen them and find out about their past and see what they're like in all these different situations before you get hitched. Because you can find out the girl you're with isn't all who you thought she was, and too late, you're already married. And you divorce, well, you're up shit creek. But again, the main issue of this thing is not the backdoor action or anything like that. It's purely she wasn't treating him the same way as the guys back in college. Even though this guy is her soon-to-be husband and obviously treated her like a queen and all that. But as the saying goes, you treat a girl like a queen, you're going to get treated like a peasant. Anyhow, guys, I thought that'd be a good one to go over there. Just a perfect example of human nature. So, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And guys, you ever come across any really good stories online, articles, whatever, email it to me, strongsuccessfulmale@gmail.com. That also includes any personal stories, things you've gone through, things you've experienced. Email it to me, and if it's definitely a good one, I'll cover it in the future. Sometimes it takes me a month, 2 months to get to them, but I will get to them one day. And be sure to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.